Welcome to the Luminary by AIESEC in SLIIT, where we interview some of the best Sri Lankan unique personalities for you to get inspired and motivated by going through their life stories and experiences. Now here's your host, Mr. Trevin Hannibal.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Luminary. As you guys have been watching our interviews and podcasts, you guys know what Luminary is all about. And today we have an interesting person, to say the least. We have the founder and CEO of gudppl. And in gudppl, we have, as I said, the founder and CEO. So he has to be the most good doing person in gudppl. We have Mr.Harinda Fonseka with us. Hi Harinda, hope you're keeping well. How's it going?
Hello. Yeah, I'm keeping well. Things are going all right. Cannot complain. How are things with you?
Not bad. Thank you. So Harinda, let's talk about gudppl. So I got this description from the boys, and well, it's a social network which is into volunteerism. Can you just briefly take us through this, Harinda?
Sure. It's a volunteer and donor management platform with social networking capabilities. So pretty much the concept is that how can we organize and mobilize people to do good in our communities, because right now there's a huge gap between when a person wants to do good and the organizations who are requiring their services. There's a mismatch, and there's no central hub to find these opportunities. And if you're interested in volunteering next Saturday, you will have to reach out to your friends or go through other Facebook platforms and things like that to look. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to have a dedicated digital space so that we can focus on the most complex and diverse issues that we face in our society, without getting distracted by million other posts or content that we see in mainstream social media platforms. So we want to be the healthy, organic version of social media.
Right. So just for a person who does not know about this platform, for the person to get a glimpse of exactly what you guys do. So basically it's something like where it's like, it's like Facebook, where I just come and register on your network, and then if I like to volunteer, you guys would look at my interest and look at my profile, and you guys would channel me to a place where volunteering is required. Is that how it works?
So partially yes, but what we are doing is we are allowing individuals to create their own personal profile. Then organizations can also create a profile for themselves, like creating a Instagram account or Facebook page, and they can post their volunteer requirements, saying that they need 10 volunteers for a beach cleanup, so to speak. And then if you're interested, you can go and pledge to attend. And the ones who are organizing will get the notification, and matchmaking will happen from there. But on top of that, the organization can verify that you actually showed up, Trevin showed up for this event from this time to this time. Those number of hours will reflect on your personal profile. So it'll show you have volunteered this many times, this many hours to this many organizations. So it's almost like a LinkedIn for doing good, because when you're applying for jobs or applying for university, you can say, this is my gudppl profile. You can go and see my entire volunteer history. Same thing goes for organizations. It will show how many volunteer hours they have received and how many events they have organized. So it becomes a digital live annual report for nonprofits and community organizations and NGOs, because they don't have to wait till the end of the year to try and put a summary of all the work that they have done. It's there. And the beauty of it is that we also have, so Facebook has a wall, we call it deed feed, for all the good deeds people do. So what happens is, if somebody posts a good deed, let's say they take care of a street animal and they want to share it, it will show on all the followers' timelines. So if you're following me, it will show on your homepage timeline. And what we are hoping to achieve is that it will inspire and motivate people to get involved. So if you see your friends are volunteering, you likelihood of you getting involved will be higher.
Right. So, in Good People, just my last question before we move on to the next one. This is regarding your organization. So, Good People, you want to see yourself as an entrepreneur or a philanthropist, or is there a business model to it, or you're just doing this for the sake of for the society, or is there a top line and a bottom line that you're concerned in this particular organization that you're running?
Yes, good question. I am a social entrepreneur. That's how I define myself. So the reason why we did not do this as a non-profit is that then we are dependent on donor funding or grants. So that can limit the innovation, the development, and the scale of the platform. But also, I did not want to be bounded by different investors' visions. So if an investor came and said, Harinda, from today onwards, I want you to only focus on street cats and nothing else, then I'm bounded by his or her vision. So what we did was, instead we thought, okay, fine, we need to have a sustainable business model, and in order to do that, we need to go into a social entrepreneur enterprise model. So what we have is, right now everything we offer is free, but we will have a paid version, something similar to LinkedIn. So you call it the freemium model, a free model and a premium model. So we will offer a premium model eventually as a paid version. However, it will not be tied for volunteer matchmaking. So there are organizations that charge volunteers to connect with a non-profit. They all have different reasons for those things, but we believe that it's not the right way to go forward for our organization, because then we are telling people only the ones who can afford to volunteer can volunteer, right? So we want to try and make it as seamless as possible. But also the other thing is that if we have a community-centric business model, then people who choose to use our platform, then they can choose to pay to sustain us if they are actually finding what we're offering is beneficial. I think that's the model that is best suited for us, rather than having an advertising model, because I did look at all different models that's currently available, and most social media platforms are depending on the advertising model. The issue is that you're monetizing our attention, and that means you have to keep you hooked to the platform to make money. And for us, we don't want people addicted to our app. We don't want people constantly mindlessly scrolling, because if they're on the app, that means they're not out there volunteering. So again, it's bad, and we understand what the social media platforms are doing to our society, and so we want to position ourselves as an alternative to the mainstream social media platforms.
Nice. I think it's a really good model if you really look at it. So, I see that you lived in Canada for 10 years. That's where I live right now.
Right.
I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay.
So,
I used to live.
before we move on to the life in Canada, okay,
Sure.
where were you living in, Harinda?
I was in Mississauga. I was Mississauga,
okay.
Ontario.
So, Ontario. So we interviewed Kamaj, who has Sneakered Up, and he's also from the same place. So before we move on to the next question, if you go to Tim Hortons on a Monday morning, what would you order?
Double.
Double. You're not a fan of French vanilla?
No. That's too too French, too much sweetness. But double is my thing. But hey, listen, when I first moved there, I was I was a tea drinker, right? So trying to take coffee was not my thing, and I asked for 5 milk and 4 sugars. And my boss was in the line with me, and he said, "Harinda, do you want coffee with it?" And so I was like, this is so embarrassing. So I was just saying 3 sugars and 3 milk, and then slowly going to the side and putting more sugars because I hated the taste of coffee.
Yeah.
But by the time I left, I developed a palate to enjoy.
You got immune to it. Correct. So, moving on to that, so the reason why I brought up Canada was, as you know, volunteerism is pretty huge here. I don't know to what scale it's huge in Sri Lanka, but volunteerism is pretty huge. You would put it on your resume, and I'm wondering, I'm just guessing whether you got this idea when you were living in Canada of starting Good People.
Well, it's definitely Canadian culture hugely inspired, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do when I came back. So my life goal was to go abroad, study, get some work experience, come back to Sri Lanka and put that experience into practice and do something positive and meaningful for my country. That was one of my, not was, it still is one of my biggest goals in life. So I saw volunteerism part of their lifestyle over there, and in school I volunteered through scouting, but it was not like it was to get a badge or to pass a test. It was not part of our lifestyle, and I found it very inspiring how some of the volunteers, and I worked in a hospital setting for 7.5 years. So it's a mixture of several inspirations that got me here. I cannot really point to one incident saying that this is what really pushed me. It was a compound effect, and my educational background is in private security and investigation. So that's what I went to Canada to study in, because my lifelong dream was to become a private detective. And when my parents didn't allow me to get into the policing in Sri Lanka, my desire was to have my own security company one day in Sri Lanka and help people, because justice is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I am passionate about doing the right thing and doing what's best for society. So my goal was to go there, study about private security, come back home and start my own company. So when I worked in Canada, so I worked as a bouncer when I was in school in university time. Then after that, I worked in a hospital. Started off as a security officer and got into management with time. And what I realized was within the first 2 weeks of my job, I experienced a baby being born and nearly dying, and an old person dying, an older person dying. And I kind of saw the circle of life within the first 2 weeks of my experience at the hospital, and it got me thinking a lot more about life and got me to have a different perspective. And I really enjoyed my job at the hospital, because I used to tell my team, we are directly and indirectly helping people to get better. Because if we create a safe and secure environment in a hospital setting, nurses, doctors don't have to worry about their security and safety, because there are individuals who might be coming with a domestic violence spilling into the workplace, or whether drug addicts coming in, various things. But also that we were dealing with mental health individuals, people who were suffering with mental health, because we had an inpatient unit. And how do you convince a person to take their medication when they are ready to punch and hit and slice and dice everyone around? So you have to build up a skill of non-violent communication, de-escalation skills, and if needed, then you need to have the physical ability to take control of the situation. So um, that really opened my eyes, the fact that we were helping people to get better. And that's where actually I saw volunteers at the hospital who have been, some of them volunteering for 40-50 years on a weekly or bi-weekly or a monthly basis. And I found it super interesting and fascinating. And I thought, what the hell, like these people have committed their lives to come to the hospital and help
Correct.
out.
Yeah.
And that is discipline, that is consistency. And I found it really, really inspiring. So when I moved back home, I made a commitment to myself. 2015 January 1st, one of my goals were to try and volunteer at least once a month. And I found that whole process in Sri Lanka very challenging. And
Yeah, that's going to be my next question. So let me stop you for
go ahead.
hold that thought for a second,
Sure.
okay? SLIIT Global Education, who is the official title partner.
SLIIT Global Education is established for students who are interested in venturing past the higher education opportunities in Sri Lanka to explore avenues in countries such as Australia, Canada, UK, USA, Germany, and France. They have a network of 30 plus universities that they collaborate with to provide students with the best learning and holistic university experience. You can also avail exclusive scholarship schemes, especially if you are a student or alumnus of SLIIT. SLIIT Global Education also provides exceptional academic counseling services for undergraduate and postgraduate students tailored to their requirements. They also offer expert visa guidance counseling services and pre-departure training to all their transfer students. If you're considering pursuing your higher education abroad, feel free to give their friendly team a buzz.
So the reason why I asked you about Canada and we had a U-turn to our college and we came back again, the reason why I asked about Canada, as I said, of course volunteerism is pretty huge in Canada, but when you start in Sri Lanka, the attitude that certain people have, I'm not saying that everyone, but attitude that some minority have, let's put it that way, would be a bit, I don't know whether it's the minority or the majority, maybe you have a better idea than me, Harinda, but sometimes they look at it from a very crooked eye. I think that would have been a very, very challenging task for you. And I see that with this business model, it's a very good one. There are no hidden agendas here. It's something that is really, really needed for the society. But how did you mitigate certain challenges? I think the young ones who are watching this would like to learn something when negativity punches you, how you could bounce back or something like that. So as a person who is very successful, you said you started this in 2015 and now this is 2021.
2016.
So you have been
2016.
You started in 2016. So you have been doing this for quite some time. So how did you mitigate these challenges? I would like to hear about that.
First and foremost, I have to say that it all starts with myself in terms of how I view negative and positive criticisms, right? And
Yes.
Atalo Dahama is something that I really try to keep in the forefront for me in terms of not trying to overly get disappointed or overly get excited over things. And I think what has helped me is understanding the purpose. And the purpose for me is that how can we mobilize people to get involved in the community, whether it's volunteering or any other organizing activities to address the issues. Get involved. How can we increase the frequency of engagement, citizen engagement? Because if we increase the frequency, then people will know about the issues that's happening in our society. they will be more inclined to actually go and vote and voice their opinions to the elected officials, hold them accountable. So in order to build a strong democracy, in order to build a strong civic society, we need to get involved. We cannot be the people on the stands looking at the players on the field. We got to get into the field. We cannot be spectators. So what has really helped me is understanding my purpose clearly, and I see purpose is like the suspension that kind of smoothes the ride of life, right? So it gives me it smoothes the bumpy ride in life, as long as I am true to following my purpose. And purpose for me, and it forced me to try and kind of understand my purpose when I moved back home, and still with the idea of wanting to start my own security company. And I realized that post-war era, lots of the security companies have started by ex-military personnel. So I did work with a company for a short period, realized it wasn't the right fit for me for various reasons, and then it became a question, okay, here I am, moved back to Sri Lanka thinking I'm going to do something for my country, and nobody gives a shit about this person who moved back home, because lots of people have moved on, and trying to understand, okay, what am I going to do, what am I going to give? And I felt like I had all this pent up knowledge and experience and passion that I want to give to the country, but there was no outlet to do that. And I felt so frustrated, because I knew what I had was special for certain people, obviously not for everyone, but it came from a genuine place, but I found it very difficult. So that's why I started thinking, okay, what if we actually had a platform for people like us who are moving back home, and lots of people were coming back to Sri Lanka, and how can we get involved in the society? Because volunteering can help with social integration, right? To me, if I try to volunteer, I realize that many people were either 10-15 years younger than me, well, about 10-15 years younger than me, or 20-30 years older than me, individuals who have retired. All my batchmates, people in my age group, were married, had kids, or other career commitments, and they did not have volunteering part of their lifestyle. And doing good in Sri Lanka mostly has been tied up with religious institutions. So a lot of people do good either because they are afraid to go to hell, or because they want to go to heaven, or it's related to some sort of a religious activity, 1 year death anniversary of a loved one, or a 3-month death anniversary of a loved one, or some sort of before an exam going to the temple. It's all interconnected with religion, and it's almost transactional. And what really bothered me was people, when they are going to an elder's home to give a dani, to give food, most often, not all of them, but most often they do it for a death anniversary, right? And it's not when those people are hungry, it's when it's convenient to the giver, right? Regardless whether those people have food or not, it's always on the times and requirements on the giver. And I felt like that's not sustainable, that's not ideal. We need to try and understand societal issues so that we can address them in a meaningful manner. So that's kind of the dots that connected me, and that's what's really pushing me to continue with this platform, because I'm sure we can get into it, but the issues that we are going to face in the next 10 years are big. It's complex as a human race, and we don't have a platform to address them in a meaningful manner.
Right, because it's a very unique path that you have selected. You know, being in Canada, and if with what I see here, it says that Harinda Fonseka lived in Canada for almost 10 years. And so that's something that no one would do.
Well, I like to consider myself as a man of my word, and I told my friends and family that one day I'm going to come back home, and I want to follow through on that. It was too prone, and I want to spend some quality time with my parents. My father is sick, also, so I wanted to spend quality time and not wait till the end of his life to come back. So I have no regrets if I die today or tomorrow. I'm following my dreams, and
Yes.
I have no regrets because, well, I have many regrets, but I'm saying that because I'm following my dreams and staying true to what I promised, I'm happy.
I know. I mean, as long as you're happy, I think, just imagine if Sanat Jayasuriya had to work at a bank in Canada. It's not what he was meant to be, right? Just imagine someone like, I don't know, a very famous, let's say, I don't know, Michael Jackson had to work as an accountant in a tax company. That's not what he was supposed to be. But anyway, the reason why I'm asking that is the thing that you do in Good People is largely connected to social media. So let's talk about social media now. Effects of social media is what I want to talk with you. What's your personal opinion about social networking? Now, well, it has gone to a point where there are privacy concerns now. People say that people use it for good. Certain people say that it's ruining teenagers' lives. Some people say that a person like me, I would say thanks to Messenger, I could speak to my college friends, my parents, and so on and so forth. I get to connect with them. You could do, I don't know, various stuff with that. But some people say it's used for various kinds of bad things that would, harm a human being. So what's your take on social media and the effects of social media?
Social media is meant to be a tool, but unfortunately it is more than a tool. So people are not necessarily using it as a tool. So every product or most products and services that we create will have a positive and negative aspect about it. Most of them, I wouldn't say every. If you take a knife, you can cut a mango with it, or you can kill a person with it, right? That's a tool. But problem is when you incentivize bad behavior, negative behavior, and it's monetized. Imagine every time you kill someone, people around you are applauding and then giving you money. Then likelihood of you using that tool to cut a mango is going to be it's going to reduce, and likelihood of you doing negative things with it is going to increase.
Yeah.
The reward mechanism is screwed, and I think more than privacy, the bigger issue is actually our minds. The humankind is controlled because of social media. Because it let's establish this first and foremost. It's understood that the information you put into your mind shapes your thinking and the experiences, right? If you are constantly consuming information that is polarizing, that is negative, that is misinformation, disinformation, fake news, it's going to leave you in a constant state of flight or flight state, where you think the world is falling apart, the world is shit, and you are losing trust in humanity, losing hope, putting you into a paralyzed mode, thinking, oh, I cannot do anything, everything is so big, everything is burning, and I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to be a passive consumer of this content and share it. And the issue is, the minute you share something, whether it's climate change or something big, it's going to give you that quick dopamine hit. The minute you get that dopamine hit, you feel like you have done your part, and then you move on to the next fire. Problem is, there's not enough people taking action with the content that they're consuming, right? So the non-profits or the community organizations that are doing good in our society are not getting enough support, sustainable support, whether it's through manpower or funding. They're not getting it. So then what they need to do is, they are now forced to go into social media to keep putting stuff, content creators, to grab your attention. So because we are in an attention economy, everybody's trying to steal our attention and monetize it. So the metrics are designed to keep you hooked. As long as you are communicating, and the way I would say is, as long as we are using social media platforms or these platforms to communicate, collaborate, and consume information, we will not be able to address the bigger issues in our society. Because if you are constantly going to the platform to check your likes or to have fights, Twitter fights or comments or whatnot, it pulls you back into that. It's like a vortex, right? It's addiction. And people don't see it because it's built into the algorithms itself to bring you in and keep you there. So what happens to our brains? Well, of course, I'm in my 30s. Now, I was lucky enough to not grow up with social media until my 20s. But imagine the damage that's doing to our youth and the young ones, when from their small days, their brains are wired based on what the algorithm thinks that you would like to keep you hooked onto the platform. So an example I would, and some of these ideas and thoughts are not original. I must say that, there are many individuals who have been researching and talking about this. Yeah, Tristan Harris, Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's a good movie, a documentary to watch. Douglas Rushkoff, and there are many people who are talking about the negative effects. An example that they use actually is this. Think about when you're driving on the highway, you see a road accident, and you turn your head and you see it. Now imagine if there's an algorithm and you're using a map to go through, and if there's an algorithm monitoring your attention and say, okay, Trevin, look, and he might like that, so I'm going to show another accident, another accident, and another accident. So before you know, you're stuck in traffic, not getting to the end destination, because you are being programmed and pushed towards negativity all the time.
True.
Welcome to SparkX, a platform that will groom you to have a leading edge over other IT students. We built this to give you the real skills to make you a superhero, actually a super talent. Being up on the game is really important, and that's why we researched what skills are really required by the IT industry. You will be surprised. It's not pure technical skills, but a combination of specific technical skills and soft skills that we offer, which no program out there in Sri Lanka teaches you. If you master these skills, you'll be assured a job in a leading IT company or the support to start your entrepreneurship journey. And that is why I teamed up with the best people to help you. Through a pre-selection process, candidates will be given the opportunity of a personalized mentorship with SparkX. The program is 6 months long and can be followed part-time while you study. Dedicated mentors with domain experts will connect you through live online learning and face-to-face boot camps.
True. That's very true. Basically, from what I collected from what you're saying is, I think I see that you have gone deep into this, and but in a nutshell, what I think is, as you said, social media is a tool, and if you use it for the wrong reasons, of course, it's going to be harmful at the end of the day. But isn't that what we see in all industries? And isn't this why the society is where it is now? Now, for example, if you take in my profession, being a professor, I could use the authority or whatever that I have for the wrong reasons. If you take a politician, we have seen in the past, especially in South Asia, where they use their authority and power as a tool for the wrong reasons. And that does not even bring adverse outcomes to them, but for the entire country. So, that being said, yeah, social media, people using it for the wrong reasons and because of the competition and all of these things, if it is being used for the wrong reason, of course, then we have a problem over there. So with that, I would like to come to the next question.
Sorry,
is about
sorry,
go ahead.
Trevin, I'm going to actually interrupt you and actually add to that comment. I think it's something that we need to be very careful about when we are framing this issue. Whether it's social media, whether it's plastic bottle manufacturing, or whether it's the politicians. Usually what happens is people say, oh, you know what, you're the individual, you should be recycling the bottles. You're the one who's polluting the environment. Or it's an individual choice, so you should get out of social media and make sure that you don't stay there. Or why did you vote for the politicians, right? It's your fault, right? So the easy thing is to actually put the blame on the individual. I'm not saying that we should abdicate responsibilities from individual decision. Yes, individuals have a responsibility, but also we have to think about the system and the organization. What are they doing? What is their social responsibility for the common good? As an example, if you're in the business of changing human behavior from drinking tap water to drinking bottled water, okay, so you're going to do your best to market to people to drink bottled water, not the tap water. So there's a financial interest for you to keep people hooked to the bottled water, right? Sooner or later, there might be things that you might do, lobby politicians or dirty the water sources or whatever it is, that might actually change human behavior and settle to that bottled water. And then you cannot say, oh, you know what, it's the people who are asking for these bottled waters and I have no responsibility. They're asking and I'm giving it, right? But there is a financial interest for you to keep me hooked to that. Same thing with social media, right? If the financial model is designed to keep you hooked to the platform, so they can show you advertisements one after the other, we cannot necessarily say, oh, the individual needs to be more mindful, and if not, it's not the responsibility of the organization. And it's almost like the 1970s Milton Friedman talked about it, right? The responsibility of the company is to make sure the shareholder value goes up. But now, last year, 2020, I believe, or year before, several CEOs came together and actually said that their responsibility is beyond the shareholder values. It also, they are responsible for the consumer, to the employee, and the society at large. You cannot continuously harvest the natural resources, whether it's human resources or whether it's the environment, and say, oh no, we cannot take any responsibility. So we have to be very clear how we hold people accountable. I'm not saying that we should cancel them. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that we need to have meaningful dialogue so that people are held accountable and organizations cannot push the responsibility to the individuals, saying, oh, you are the one who's polluting the environment, not us, and then carry on with life. So my point is that when you're talking about metrics and systems, we have to think about, as an example, GDP, okay, gross domestic product. Now GDP is calculated based on products and services, right, within a time period. If the GDP goes up, people talk, oh, the government is doing a good job. If the GDP goes down, people say government is doing a bad job. But GDP is a flawed metric. It's a flawed, incomplete metric, because if you get stuck in traffic while driving back home, you're adding to the GDP. But if you carpool or take a public transportation and go and read to your child, you're not adding to the GDP. Why? Because if you're stuck in traffic, wear and tear, fuel burning, all those things. And then if you're polluting the environment, you need to create another device to try and suck out the air pollution. If you're killing someone, you're adding to the GDP. But if you hug the same person, you're not adding to the GDP. If you kill someone, again, police investigation, ambulance, hospital, funeral services, all of that is adding to the GDP. So I think at the end of the day, there are two things that we have to, as a human race, we need to talk about. One is, what type of metrics are we going to use to understand the health of our society? Right now, it's being viewed from only from a financial perspective most of the time. Is the stock market doing good? Is the GDP doing good? And all those things. That's one thing. As long as we know the value of a dead tree, which is lumber, more than the value of a live tree, we are going to be always going to be cutting trees. Only few people in the world who are looking at trees would know, okay, this tree is sucking this much of carbon dioxide and emitting this much of oxygen, and this is what the tree is adding to the society and to the planet. We do not know the price and the value of that. Not too many people know about that, but many people know the value of a dead tree. So that's the metrics. And the second part is that how we communicate and collaborate and consume content. Right now, everything is happening through social media. Most of that is happening through social media. Even the news, main TV channels and newspapers are influenced by social media, because when there is a trending tweet or a trending post or a viral video, they show it on news or show it on mainstream. And even if you choose to leave social media and stay out of social media, you cannot escape it, because it's all around you. We saw one of the most influential social media influencers recently threaten the democracy, try to overturn an election, send his followers to the Capitol Hill. I'm talking about Donald Trump. It was all used through, by social media, and social media, he and his supporters use social media to leverage and misinformation to try and bring anger towards elected officials. So this is really, really big, and I think all societies need to be talking about these things sooner than later, because otherwise we cannot address big issues like climate change or poverty or hunger, all those big issues.
That's really insightful. And we are coming towards the latter part of our discussion today, and it's going to be, of course, this question is going to be hooked to what you just said, Harinda. I cannot remember exactly the source where I got this from, but it says nothing is new under the sun. Nothing is new under the sun. Now, just to give you an example, of course, because of social media, we could calculate the views, and we have boosting budgets, and we have reaches that we could calculate, right? And there are people who are becoming stars, saying that I have 9 million views on this. By the way, I have a video which has 90 million views, and people are talking about these views and stuff, and we are famous, we know this, I know that. But before social media, right, with word of mouth, there were people who were world famous, like Harry Houdini, right? The famous magician Harry Houdini was world famous, not when social media was there, right? He was world famous because of word of mouth, and people used to say likewise. So my question for you is this: is social media a new way of doing the old thing? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely, and that I would say yes, because social media, for many people, it's a high utility tool for suppressed voices to come out and amplify their message. So it's really beneficial. But what's happening is that we have these bubbles, these echo chambers. So the conversations are becoming fractured. So if you are, only sharing music or any type of creative content, then okay, fine, you are working with your own fans, and you're reaching out to your fans and expanding your reach. That's one thing. But what's happening is that it's like our perspectives are going through a shredder. Every single individual is having a different reality now. These realities are not interwoven. So the problem is that, leaving aside the entertainment aspect of it, when it comes to news, or whether it's coming to mobilizing people to address issues in our society or other types of urgent issues, also cannot be addressed without trying to compete with the other content, because the entertainment value is lower, right? So at the end of the day, the media has trained us over the last several decades. This is not only social media, I'm talking about mainstream media also. It has effectively trained our brains to be trained us to evaluate performances over training us to be citizens that evaluate evidence and content and have thoughtful discussions. So the problem is that we are constantly looking at the performance. Did the politician shout or did a big performance? Versus did the politician give something insightful, something that adds value to me, something that makes sense to my community? That's not what people are now evaluating. They are evaluating the performance. So yes, nothing under the sun is new, and I would say yes, even good people is not really new, because the freemium model that has been there, it was inspired by LinkedIn, and we have had Shramadanas in Sri Lanka for ages, right? People coming together to do good. It's nothing big, but it's just that the ingredients might not be new, but the recipe is new, right? So how I have put the ingredients together,
the presentation of it,
that's what's new.
Nice. Oh my, it was a really nice talk with you, Harinda, and I'm very happy to have this chat with you, and I myself learned a lot regarding certain areas that I was not actually aware of in social media. It's always good to connect, and thank you very much. And before we leave, before we wind up the session, I would like to ask you, what do you think about this particular platform, the podcast and Luminary, and we were able to connect and share thoughts, and this discussion will be, of course, in social media, although we had some discussion about it, and I'm sure the youth is going to see this, and they will be very much they would learn some new things, and especially about how to shape their future and so on and so forth. So final comments from you regarding this platform, the Luminary, the podcast session that we had today.
I think definitely beneficial. However, the question is, what does the audience do with this content that they have consumed? So knowledge, I am a firm believer, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is power only when applied, right? So if people are passively consuming, then all right, maybe some people are doing it to entertain themselves or consume information and maybe take some action in the future. It's their prerogative, but I would like to see more people on the field, because we need more people on the field and not on the stands cheering the ones who are doing good. So I think it would be really nice to see more and more individuals asking questions, curiously asking questions, because that's really important. Why is this person saying so and this or that? Because if people understand personalities and the message that we are saying versus trying to idolize the speakers or these so-called success people, I think they too can be a better version of themselves. I think that's the key. A lot of people fall into this trap of idolizing celebrities or successful people. Everybody's versions of success is different, but we should not fall into the trap of that. We should understand what has driven these individuals to take these decisions and take whatever that's good and whatever that's applicable, and then use that to improve themselves. So yes, I think this is a great platform for people, especially in the university sector, to try and understand how to move forward. And if they put it into practical use, amazing. If they don't, then I would encourage them to do so.
That's nice, and thank you very much, Harinda, for your time, and thank you very much for taking part in this. And there you go, guys. We'll see you guys next week as well with another edition of Luminary, and until that time, it's time to say goodbye. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
That's this week's episode of The Luminary. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.
SLIIT Global Education is established for students who are interested in venturing past the higher education opportunities in Sri Lanka to explore avenues in countries such as Australia, Canada, UK, USA, Germany, and France. They have a network of 30 plus universities that they collaborate with to provide students with the best learning and holistic university experience. You can also avail exclusive scholarship schemes, especially if you are a student or alumnus of SLIIT. SLIIT Global Education also provides exceptional academic counseling services for undergraduate and postgraduate students tailored to their requirements. They also offer EXCERT visa guidance counseling services and pre-departure training to all their transfer students. If you're considering pursuing your higher education abroad, feel free to give their friendly team a buzz.
Welcome to SparkX, a platform that will groom you to have a leading edge over other IT students. We built this to give you the real skills to make you a superhero, actually a super talent. Being up on the game is really important, and that's why we researched what skills are really required by the IT industry. You will be surprised. It's not pure technical skills, but a combination of specific technical skills and soft skills that we offer, which no program out there in Sri Lanka teaches you. If you master these skills, you will be assured a job in a leading IT company or the support to start your entrepreneurship journey. And that is why I teamed up with the best people to help you. Through a pre-selection process, candidates will be given the opportunity of a personalized mentorship with SparkX. The program is 6 months long and can be followed part-time while you study. Dedicated mentors with domain experts will connect you through live online learning and face-to-face boot camps.